What are you stealing? So Shenna, did you steal those out of my tackle box? Oh, crikey. Shall I put them back? Oh, watch out, Violas, I just about got an eye. Shenna just about got some really good footage there.
Yeah, Viola.
Why, Jingo's you to a trouble. 3 a bloody trouble, like your father. Welcome back to another episode of Pigton's Northern Star, the floating circus fiasco thing. This week we start to have a look at some of the woodwork on the top sides while we're waiting for the engineer to turn up to establish why the boat won't stay in gear under load, and also hopefully deal with or identify where the oil leak is coming that is leading to the oil in the bilges. And thanks for all those for the comments about where the oil may be coming from. I did get down underneath the end of the gearbox reduction box with the GoPro and the light as far as I could. It seems to be a little bit of a weep of green oil from the reduction box there. Jury's still out, we're still working through this issue. Anyhow, I see we're only about 2 subscribers away from 500. Hey, it'd be really awesome. I know there's a lot of people watching who aren't subscribed. To click subscribe, see if we can bump the number to over 500. No other reason other than small things, small minds, keeps me happy, and I really do enjoy making these, and it's a real privilege knowing that you're watching them. Anyway, if you hang around to the end, cheers for watching, and yeah. Seeing quite a bit of wash in here. There's been a reasonable sized boat go past at a reasonable speed, and everything's bouncing around a bit. Obviously low tide must allow the wake to pass under the seawalls. I'm curious. Bouncing around there. Well, I've come down today to ventilate the boat and have a little bit of a look at the bit of rot, a couple of pockets of rot there. Right, let's open up, get that bit of air flowing through here. There's quite a bit of movement in here today. It's quite surprising. For a sheltered marina, how much on a very windless day, a lovely day, everything's bouncing around here. And condensation starting again. I'm going to have to get that sorted. And every other gazillion thing to do. Right, what I'm going to have a look at today is in here, a bit of rot in here. I'm going to peel this back and have a look and treat it to scrape out anything that's really dodgy, and I've got some Everdur that I'm going to treat the timber with to stop the rot. And as you can see, it's actually come all the way through there. So it's going to be a matter of sorting that, and you see the paint's peeled off, water's got down through the paint there. Yep. Just like that. It's causing me a little bit of a concern. Quite slimy. I may need to actually dry it out a bit before I get too carried away. Just peeling off and it needs to dry it out a wee bit. It's getting quite slushy in there. It's a bit rotten up there in a couple of spots. It's that paint. Again, paint that's applied incorrectly over the top of issues and problems. People don't sort out properly and hide it with paint, which is I think what happened with this painted up for sale. Mate coming in there. Be interesting to see if we get the wash off that as well, coming under the seawall. So the currents in the wash must run under the concrete. The concrete around the seawall doesn't go all the way down, I don't think, the sound of it. Anyhow, back to this, and here we have this needs to be dried out, and you see that's 2 sheets of ply through here, and you can see what's happened down here. There's water in there. It's got in. So I'm going to peel it back a little bit further. I might go down and see if I can find some plastic to cover that up with, to dry it out so that I can use Everdur in there to treat it all. It's not as bad as I thought, but it still needs some attention. It's not going to get any better. And the same issue here, but it's got down into this paint here. I'm going to make a cut in that and lift that off and get some Everdur into there just to protect that wood. And I may peel that there off here and have a look and see how well that's dried out. Right, I'm going to head down to Burnsco, see if I can get some plastic and some tape to seal that up. I'm going to need to let that area dry, so I'm a little bit of two minds whether to leave it uncovered for a few days rather than cover it up too wet. Let it dry out, run the risk of some further rain. Although in saying that, I don't think the rain will be too much of an issue. It's more the water that's been trapped behind the paint has made its way in and under the paint that is a problem. So probably the issue is that it would probably be better off having some ventilation, even if there is a little bit of rain and moisture in the air, for a few days before I cover it up. But I'll go and get some plastic and tape anyway in case I change my mind. Okay, back from Burnsco. Stanley knife, new paint scraper, tape and plastic protective sheet that I'm going to use to cover up that area. So we'll go and have a look. Well, what I'm going to do is scrape back that paint, peel it off as far as I can to where it's firm. I'm going to cover it with the sheet there to keep the rain off it, but leave it ventilated so that it can dry out before I look at applying any Everdur or treatments to it. And I'm also going to peel this plastic here off and have a look in through here and see what it's looking like there as well, and probably do the same thing again if it's still damp under there. So it's certainly not as bad as I was expecting under there. There is a small bit of rot right through towards the top there, through the outer sheet of plywood. I'll sort that out. I'll work out what the best way to deal with that is once I see what the end result is after treatment and hardening it all up and drying it out and that sort of thing, as to how best to deal with that. And the other side. Now there's 2 sheets of ply running right around the boat, obviously forming the bulwarks or gunnels. I'm unsure quite what you'd call them. I certainly can't afford to replace them, not on top of everything else, so it's going to be a matter of preserving them and repairing them as best as I can, ensuring that they're strong and there's not going to be a reoccurring problem with them. And I'm going to have to work my way around a few spots to do that. Particularly there's another one there. It looks like there's been a wee bit of collision damage. And there's it's right there, but there's across here as well. And here. where water's got into the paint, under the paint again. And another area along here. It's again through on the inside, so we'll start to work that out. Stanley knife to cut the paint back to where I believed it was sound. That enabled me to get large pieces of paint off where it had delaminated off the wet wood. Clearly what the problem was that water has got behind the paint, or was already behind the paint. It's caused a fracture, further water has got in, it's continued to cause delamination of the thick marine paint and cause the plywood underneath to begin rotting. There is a small hole which you'll see shortly I will point to. However, there are two thick sheets of plywood that form these areas all the way around the boat. You'll see I've damaged the underside of the timber gunnels there. That is all sound and really in good shape. But hey, what would a job be on Northern Star if I didn't have to fix something that I cocked up on the way through of trying to repair something else? Paint's now off to the solid wood, hasn't delaminated. I'm not peeling any more off. It just needs now to ventilate. I decided to scrape off the dodgy wood, the sludge, so that it can dry properly, and we'll sort it out in due course. It's just a test to see how much to take off. I don't want to take off too much, although it does seem to be pretty sound once I get through the soft bits. Remembering this is just a partial thickness of one thick sheet of plywood. Can see that there is where it goes all the way through, so I'm not going to peel that away too far. It needs to be dried off and then treated with hardener and then filled. It's just going to be a matter of trying to get a fine line as to how far to go digging around before I create a huge mess and a huge hole. It's all reasonably solid there, just needs to dry out. Quite a few episodes ago I removed the capstone off the bow of Northern Star after I received notification from the marina that I was too large and needed to reduce my size. Now, first time in my life I've ever been told that. Anyhow, bottom line was I came down, I removed the capstone, unbolted it. You can go back to a previous episode and have a look there. I think it was titled I'm Too Big. And in the course of that discovered that whoever had installed it, cutting through the gunnel and the plywood, had done an absolute rubbish job, relied on Sikaflex or whatever the bloody rubbish was to seal it up. They hadn't sealed the grain ends of the timbers up, water had got in behind the paint and caused a problem, and it was gradually getting worse. So I covered everything with plastic with the view that try and dry it out, and I would get round to fixing it in due course. This is going to happen now, and I was contemplating whether I was going to reinstall the capstan when I decided to put it back onto a mooring, or reinstate the vessel as she originally was, with the gunnels and plywood all the way to the bow stem. Anyhow, but I need the capstan to utilise the windlass, so the reinstallation in due course needs to be done properly. And we got around there, just sorted that out. That there will need to be clamped in and re-glued. When I work out what exactly I'm going to do with this here, I'm sorely tempted to use some fiberglass resin cloth as a layer inside here, just to re-strengthen everything, because this was where the windlass was, or the anchor setup, and yeah, we'll strengthen that up, but it needs to dry out. Still a bit damp there as well. So, right, Everture, I'm going to make up a little bit of it, and I'm going to go up on the starboard side there where the timber is drier, particularly on the outside, and up where it's been sitting under the plastic, and just on the external side as well, to protect the ply as much as possible. And then I'm going to tape and plastic everything up as a bit of a cloche up there to keep the weather off, allow a little bit of air to ventilate, and hopefully dry the wood out, so then I can come back and treat the rest of it in a week or so's time, and then work out the best way to get everything sorted, filled, sealed, and that sort of thing. It's all a work in progress, folks, so all very organic. So yeah, we'll get into it. I'm going to have to get some measuring things, or syringes for measuring this out. Very hard to tip out of those larger tins without it going and spilling. I'm going to waste more than I actually use otherwise, and it's a pretty rough mix of 1:1. Give it all a good mix up, and we'll go and apply a little bit up forward there. Right, bit of a clean up there. It's well soaked in Everture all the way around there, all the dry spots anyway. The rest of it will need to dry out. Easier said than done. On plastic sheet, cut up and covering that. I've tented it to leave a bit of air circulation to dry everything out. I don't think it's going to go anywhere, it's not going to blow away. It should be like that for a couple of weeks until it finishes drying the wood out. Then I'll come down and pour some more Everture into it, and then we'll look at what we can do with the side here as far as clamping in the external layer of ply to an internal layer of ply or filler. But I'm thinking I can probably do that with a clamp and a piece of wood on the outside clamped on the inside to get it all in place while something dries. Probably some epoxy glue dries to keep it all back into place. Right, well, to say that wasn't as bad as I thought it was. Those are the, in my view, probably the worst areas. Two worst areas around the side of the boat. This area here is a concern. As you can see there, it's the same sort of problem there. that area up there. So they are the worst areas in the gunnel side of things. That needs some effort expended on. Yeah, you can see where they'd cut in to the ply in the gunnel. Never been done properly, like a lot of other things on this old boat. And subsequently, after it was built, and I'm going to need to probably put some epoxy glue. You'll see where there was part of the external piece of ply up towards the edge of where it's been cut into that needs to be pulled in. It's still fairly sound there, just needs to be pulled in. I can do that with a clamp, glue it, leave it in there, finish curing everything, and then fill it. Now how that looks, whether it's with some fiberglass, some chopped matting, or whether I go for a piece of fiberglass cloth in there, or the resin and sawdust mix. I'm sort of almost a little bit of the mind that potentially there's a little bit of strengthening is required, so I might get a little bit of fiberglass matting and cut some circular bits to fit inside the lowest areas and epoxy that in, building it up again, and then fill with some fiberglass and sawdust over the top to finish it off. But I just want to make sure that there's never ever another problem with that again. The rot needs to be stopped in its tracks. It's not as bad as I thought it was, which is reassuring, but I start to need to get onto it because it's only going to spread. So hopefully that'll stop it. It's tinted, it'll dry out under that plastic. You'll see my rather pathetic attempt with the GoPro and the light on my cell phone to try and get a little bit of footage of underneath there, but it certainly looks as though there's a little bit of minor weepage from the very end of the reduction box. Whether or not that's enough to create the problem with the oily bilge water that I found. To be quite honest, the bilge water oil looked black and gunky, and I did find a bit of a leak or a seep up forward where the gearbox housing bolts onto the engine. But anyway, I might bring a proper light down next time and see if I can get a little bit more footage that's a little bit better than what we have here. Once again, thanks for watching. We reached the end of this episode. Sorry it's not a long one, but starting some of the work top sides while I'm waiting for the engineer to get down and sort the mechanical side of things out. Okay, as always, please like, subscribe and share. Really would be great to get over the 500 subscriber mark for nothing else than a bit of personal satisfaction. As always, I enjoy making these. Thanks for watching, and I hope you come back to watch the next one.